In Dungeons & Dragons, the Arcane Trickster is an intelligent and dexterous rogue, utilizing deft movement and subtle sorcery to overcome challenging opponents. This Elden Ring guide will cover the important attributes and items needed to create the Arcane Trickster D&D subclass within the Lands Between, and how to effectively use it in both PvE and PvP scenarios. As usual, useful timestamps can be found in the video description. First, let's start with the equipment. The complete Arcane Trickster build uses multiple weapons, including the Staff of Loss, Wakazashi with Bloodhound's Step, Misericorde with White Shadow's Lure, any dagger with Assassin's Gambit, and last but not least, the Moonveil Katana. The primary spells for this build are the Night Shard, Night Comet, Night Maiden's Mist, and Ambush Shard. Our garb will be the medium light stealthy black knife armor set, which has the intrinsic trait of silencing the wearer's movements. For the talismans, we have the Gowry icon, Radagon icon, Graven-Mass talisman, and Ritual Sword talisman, all of which will amp up our magic-based attacks and sorceries. Finally, we'll then want the Speckled Hard Tier and Magic-Shrouding Cracked Tier for our Wondrous Physic Flask. The Hard Tier will shore up our defenses, and the Cracked Tier will bolster our magic damage. Contrary to its name, this build mainly relies on dexterity and intelligence, with vigor and mind being important secondaries. Meanwhile, faith and arcane are dump stats. For these reasons, I recommend picking the prisoner, astrologer, or samurai as the starting origin for your character for the Arcane Trickster, though it isn't a big deal if you started with one of the other origins. Early on, along with vigor, you'll want to prioritize getting strength to 12, dexterity to 18, and intelligence to 23. This allows you to use the Moonveil Katana, which will carry you through most of the PvE content in the game. From there, try to prioritize getting your vigor up around 40, as this will drastically raise the amount of health you have and make bosses much easier. Besides that, I would try to get your mind stat up to the point where you can summon stronger spirits to aid you in battle, as well as trickling in a point or two into both dex and intelligence every so often. The endpoint for this build will be at level 150. Your dexterity and intelligence should both be at a respectable 49 or 50, and again, as far as strength goes, you only need it at 12 to use the Moonveil Katana. In order to use all the equipment for this build simultaneously without being weighed down, you'll need an endurance of at least 17. I would recommend getting vigor to 40 at least, and at a mind stat of 38 you have 221 FP, which is just 1 FP more than a fully leveled flask of Cerulean Tears replenishes. Now let's cover how to get all the equipment in this build. I'll be going in the order that I think makes for the easiest item acquisition in terms of locations and player level. As a quick and general warning, rushing through the game just to get specific items will likely result in missing certain quests, NPC interactions, and items. I'll do my best to mention the major ones in this guide, but if you really want to avoid missing anything, I highly suggest my complete Elden Ring guide series. I'll put a link to the playlist for that series in this video's description. But now onto the equipment. Start by making your way to Caelid, following the main road and discovering sites of grace along the path. If you are low level, you can avoid the dangerous enemies in this region easily enough. The first items we will be getting here relate to the invisibility or night sorceries, and to that end, head to Gowry's shack, tiptoe around the man-eating dog, and speak with Gowry. He'll ask you to retrieve an unalloyed gold needle from within the swamps of Aeonia. From there, move northwest along the border of Sellia to reach the Sellia Understair Grace. Then travel southwest on Torrent to find the Inner Aeonia Grace. A short distance to the southeast, you'll find Commander O'Neill, who guards the unalloyed gold needle. If you are low level, you can cheese this boss by kiting him back towards the Inner Aeonia Grace. Just watch out for the Cleanrot Knights patrolling the area. Right next to the Inner Aeonia Grace are several Scarlet Rot geysers, which will deal considerable damage to Commander O'Neill. Just stay on Torrent and carefully drag O'Neill through the plumes of rot to whittle him down and eventually defeat him. The most important item we get from O'Neill is the Gold Needle. However, if you are lower level, then you can invest the 12,000 runes from O'Neill into leveling up. I recommend getting your strength to 12, dexterity to 18, and intelligence to 23 as soon as possible, which will allow you to use the Moonveil Katana. Next, take the unalloyed gold needle back to Gowry and give it to him. Reload the game and speak with Gowry again to get the repaired version of the needle. Fast travel to the Sellia Understair Grace and make your way up into the town of Sorcery. In this walkthrough segment, we'll be opening the seals throughout Sellia and retrieving 2 important items along the way. Starting from the Erd Tree sapling, you can quickly ascend to the first candle tower and light the flame. Afterwards, spot the body laying over a ledge down to the south. On it, you'll find the Staff of Loss, which is the primary spellcasting focus for this build, as it will enhance the power of the invisibility sorceries that this build uses. Make your way back onto the rooftops and head southeast to the second candle tower. Finally, move west to the last candle tower. Once all 3 candle towers have been lit, you can return to the streets below. A short distance to the north, you'll find a chest in an alcove. Grab the Night Comet invisibility sorcery from inside, and then continue moving north back up the staircase to the Sellia back streets site of grace. The Night Comet is a great sorcery and will be one of our primary damaging spells, especially for PvE. However, it requires an intelligence of 38 to cast, so if you are low level, it will be some time before you get to start using it. For now, continue heading up the road to the Church of the Plague. Nearby, you should spot Millicent. Speak with her and hand over the unalloyed gold needle, and then speak through any remaining dialogue, then rest at the site of grace. This should result in Millicent being back on her feet. Speak through all of her dialogue again, and then reload the game once more. At this point, Millicent should be gone. When you return to Gowry's shack, you'll find Millicent there in his stead. Once again, speak through all of her dialogue, then reload the game. Millicent will be gone, and Gowry will have returned. At this point, Gowry should allow you to access his sorceries. The main spell we want here is Night Shard, but Night Maiden's Mist also has some useful applications on slow-moving or stationary targets. Next, we will go for the Bloodhound Step Ash of War. Return to the Church of the Plague and make your way up the hill towards the north. You should find a spirit spring to take you to the northeastern region of Caelid. Travel further north and make use of the spirit springs to safely reach the site of grace near Linnaeus Rise. You'll need to pass time until night there in order for the Knight's Cavalry boss to spawn on the bridge to the north. Defeat it to obtain the Bloodhound Step Ash of War, which is extremely useful in both PvE and PvP. Moving on, we will next get the Wakazashi, which will be the weapon we apply Bloodhound Step to. Check that you have at least 2 Stone Sword keys, then travel west from the Caelid Highway North site of grace to the Jail Cave, which lies beneath Fort Gael. Fair warning, you'll need to defeat the boss in this dungeon in order to leave with all of your runes. Dying with a sacrificial twig equipped is also an option. Our first objective in the jail cave will be to find and pull the lever that opens up all of the jail cells within. After pulling the lever, drop back down into the jail area and head down the passage to the west. A short way down, you'll find a now open cell with 3 corpses and items to grab, one of which is the Wakazashi. To leave the dungeon, you'll need to continue your descent and travel through the gate guarded by 2 militiamen. Find and break the wooden boards covering up another passage and carefully make your way down into the pit that follows. There you'll need to defeat the frenzied duelist before you can leave. As a quick aside, on the far side of the pit there's an exit leading out into Limgrave to an elevated perch where you'll find the regalia of Eocade's sword. Next up we'll get the Moonveil Katana. Find the entrance to Gael Tunnel. It's a short distance south of the Wrought View Balcony Site of Grace. Once you discover the Site of Grace, head on through the dungeon. Before going through the boss door, which is the larger of the two, I recommend opening the smaller door and discovering the rear Gael Tunnel Site of Grace on the other side, as it will be much easier to get back to the boss room from that location. And feel free to speak with Alexander the Warrior Jar if he's there. Returning to the boss room, you'll need to defeat the magma worm residing within to get the Moonveil Katana. And fair warning, it is pretty difficult, at least at lower levels. The worst move to deal with is the magma worm's lava charge. I found the best way to counter it and get out of the way is with the Bloodhound step. The Moonveil Katana is extremely powerful and will serve as a reliable weapon to fall back on in this build. It's definitely worth the somber smithing stones that you'll need to upgrade it. We aren't just getting this weapon because it's strong though, it truly fits into the theme of this build. This is best supported by how the waves of magic that are unleashed by Moonveil's weapon art are very similar in appearance to Night Comet, Night Shard, and Ambush Shard. That finishes up the lengthy list of build items from Caelid, which forms the core of the Arcane Trickster build. Next, you'll want to briefly travel down to the Weeping Peninsula for the Ambush Shard Sorcery. The Witchbane ruins can be found just south of the 4th Church of Marika. Inside, you'll find the trapped body of a sorceress, which will later play an important role in one of Elden Ring's major side quests, so do not attack her, and also the Ambush Shard Sorcery. This sorcery does not benefit from the invisibility sorcery boosting effect provided by the Staff of Loss. However, it can catch opponents off guard if used correctly in PvP, and it is very fitting to the theme of our Arcane Trickster. We will next be getting the Misericorde Dagger in Stormveil Castle. You'll need 1 Stone Sword key. Once you've infiltrated the castle, start at the left side chamber Site of Grace. Head out the east exit and move south across the courtyard and into the keep on the other side. Move through the door at the west corner of the large room with the Grafted Scion. Open the fog door with a Stone Sword key and find the Misericorde Dagger on a corpse inside. The Misericorde boasts the highest crit stat of any weapon in the game and will be the weapon that we pair with the White Shadow's Lure Ash of War for some backstabbing shenanigans later on. Next, we'll be getting the Radagon icon. First, you'll need to gain access to Raya Lucaria Academy in Liurnia. Grab the Academy Glintstone key from behind the dragon at the location marked on the map. It's near some rocky formations just west of Raya Lucaria. Then, make your way northwest from the Academy Gatetown Site of Grace to the South Raya Lucaria Gate. Use the key, then make your way up through Raya Lucaria until reaching the Debate Parlor. From there, head out the north exit and turn east. Jump over the protective railing to the south and climb the ladder. Through the broken window and on the north side of this upper level, you'll find a chest containing the legendary Talisman. This talisman will help you cast spells faster, which is always useful. Next on our list is the Magic-Shrouding Cracked Tier. Move northeast from the Academy Gatetown and up along the east side of Liurnia to reach the Church of Vows. Travel further north to the Mausoleum compound, and make your way up the path to the northeast of that grace to reach the Minor Erdtree. Defeat the Avatar to get the Magic-Shrouding Cracked Tier, which, when mixed into the Wondrous Physic Flask, will cause it to temporarily boost magic damage when consumed. Given that all of our spells and the Moonveil Katana deal magic damage, this is a great addition to our build. You can get another great magic damage boosting item in Liurnia, the Magic Scorpion Charm Talisman. However, that requires basically completing Celavis's quest, which is very easy to get locked out of. Still, if you're interested, I recommend watching my complete guide on Celavis's quest, which you will find a link to in this video's description. Next up, we will be getting the Assassin's Gambit Ash of War, which is linked to the Volcano Manor's quests. Here you can get locked out of Blackguard Bogart's quest, but luckily, the easiest way to get to Volcano Manor will ensure that you do not get locked out of Blackguard's quest, so we will cover that now. As long as you have not been to Volcano Manor, you should find an NPC by the name of Raya within a pavilion to the east of the Scenic Isle Site of Grace. Speak with her and accept her task, then ride northwest to the Boil Prawn Shack. Speak with Blackguard Bogart there and buy the stolen necklace off of him. This will ensure that you are able to complete Blackguard Bogart's quest at a later time. Bring the necklace back to Raya and speak through all of her dialogue, receiving an invitation to Volcano Manor in the process. You'll next find Raya at one of two locations. If you first enter Altus Plateau via the Grand Lift of Dectus, you'll find Raya near the top of the lift. On the other hand, if you first enter Altus Plateau by trudging through the ruin-strewn precipice, then you will find Raya within Lux Ruins. She is up the staircase to the south of the Erdtree Gazing Hills Site of Grace. In either case, you can speak with her to be transported directly to Volcano Manor. As a quick warning, if you defeat the God-Devouring Serpent in the depths of Volcano Manor, it will lock you out of any remaining incomplete quests for Volcano Manor NPCs, including Patches, Raya, and Bernal. Fortunately, we don't have to defeat the God-Devouring Serpent for the purposes of this build. Speak with Tanith and agree to join the manor. After Tanith gives you the drawing room key, head down the nearby hallway and open the second door on your left. Go inside and greet Recus and Bernal if you'd like to, then grab the first letter from Volcano Manor. This will designate a target on your map to eliminate, Old Knight Istvan. The invasion point for Istvan is a short distance north of the War Master's Shack in Limgrave, along the road leading to the Limgrave Coliseum. Find the red summoning sign on the ground, invade, and defeat Istvan. You'll get some neat items that are irrelevant to this build, but this is a necessary step to get the Assassin's Gambit Ash of War. Return to the Volcano Manor and speak with Tanith until she gives you the Magma Shot Sorcery. Then rest at the Site of Grace and return to Bernal in the drawing room. Speak with him and he'll give you access to 2 unique Ashes of War, with Assassin's Gambit being the important one. You can put this Ash of War on any basic and non-upgraded dagger, and it will serve as a very useful utility skill for many PvE sections in the game, and is very thematically fitting, but more on that later. Next up, we're going to get the Godfrey icon. This will require 2 Stone Sword keys. Starting from the top of the Grand Lift of Dectus, travel south and find a series of short drops and ledges leading down to an Everjail. Use the Stone Sword keys at the nearby Imp statue to access the Everjail and defeat Godfrey inside. The talisman you get will boost charged spells and weapon skills, which is going to boost the damage of our Knight Comet sorcery substantially. Another great talisman for any build is the Ritual Sword Talisman, which is located nearby. North of the Grand Lift of Dectus is the Altus Plateau Site of Grace. Head north from there to reach the upper levels of Lux Ruins. On the northwest side of the ruins, you'll find a staircase that leads down to a boss fight with demi-human Queen Gillica. Defeat her to access the chest containing this useful talisman. When at full health, the Ritual Sword Talisman boosts all damage dealt by 10%. The last item to collect is the Speckled Heart tier for our Wondrous Physic Flask. Start at the forest-spanning Great Bridge Site of Grace and descend north along the Broken Bridge. A short distance east, you'll find the Worm-Faced boss near a minor Erdtree. Defeat it to obtain the Speckled Heart tier, which will temporarily boost resistances to status effects such as Bleed and Death when mixed into the Wondrous Physic Flask. A major warning here, the final 3 items in this build will require reaching the consecrated snowfields. I will describe how to reach the snowfields, but following these steps will lock you out of both the Yura and Latenna questlines if you have not already started or completed them. So I highly recommend following my guides for both of those quests instead of taking the quickest path described here. Links to those quest guides can be found in this video's description. To reach the snowfields, you'll need to first defeat 2 shard bearers such as Godric the Grafted and Renala, Queen of the Full Moon. This will allow you to enter Leyndell, the royal capital. You'll then need to make your way all the way through the capital until reaching the Elden throne, where you'll face off with Morgoth the Omen King. After defeating him and failing to enter the Erdtree, Melina will approach you and hand over the Rolled Medallion. You'll then need to take a new path from the Avenue Balcony Site of Grace up to the Forbidden Lands, eventually reaching the Grand Lift of Rold. From there, continue north through the mountaintops all the way to Castle Sol. Ascend through Castle Sol to the final boss, Commander Nile, which is basically a more difficult version of Commander O'Neill that does not have easily accessible rot geysers nearby to cheese him, and that also has 2 spectral knights to help him out. After managing to defeat the commander, you can ascend up a final lift to reach a rooftop where the left half of the Haligtree Secret Medallion is found. If you haven't already gotten the right half of the Haligtree Medallion, you can do so by going to the village of the Albinarics in Liurnia, which is found beneath the Moonlight Altar Plateau. It's most easily reached by heading northwest from the Scenic Isle Site of Grace. A short distance east of the village Grace, past the pesky perfumer enemy, you'll find Albus the Albinaric disguised as an inanimate object. Hit him once and only once to reveal Albus in his true form. Then speak through all of his dialogue. He will give you the right half of the Haligtree Medallion. Take both halves of the Haligtree Medallion to the base of the Grand Lift of Rold. Stand on the platform where you are prompted to hoist the medallion, but instead, switch your action using the D-pad or equivalent input on a keyboard to hoist the secret medallion. This will take you to the hidden path to the Haligtree, which leads into the consecrated snowfields. From the hidden path Grace, head almost completely north with just a slight tilt towards the east. This will lead you to the consecrated snowfield Grace. From there, head as directly north as possible. Eventually, some large rock formations will come into view. Circle around them to the right to find a safe drop down, then head a short distance northwest to find the inner consecrated snowfield Site of Grace. A short distance north is the map for this location. Just west of that map is a pack of wolves. They are chasing around an invisible scarab, which will drop the White Shadow's lure Ash of War when defeated. Next, we will get the Black Knife armor set. Head further north to reach Ordina Liturgical Town. Beneath an archway on the north side of the town, you'll find the body of a Black Knife assassin, along with the associated armor set. Finally, we will get the Graven-Mass Talisman. In order to get it, you'll first need the Fanged Imp Ashes. These can be purchased from a specific merchant in Liurnia. Start at the main Academy Gate site of Grace and travel beyond the ward to the southeast, and down along the bridge. You'll eventually find this isolated merchant past several packs of wolves. If you are able to upgrade this summons, it will make the next step easier. Return to the inner consecrated snowfield site of Grace and head east into the fog. You'll know you're on the right track if you start passing by several balls of Graven Mages. Eventually, you should reach the Albinaric Rise. Once there, summon the Fanged Imp Ashes and get them to attack one of the spectral imps patrolling the perimeter of the Rise. You can help your imps by damaging the enemy imp, but make sure that one of your imps is the one to strike the final blow against the enemy imp. This will cause the seal on Albinaric Rise to open. Ascend to the top of the tower to claim the Graven-Mass Talisman, which greatly boosts the potency of all sorceries. Now that we've gotten all the items, how do we use them? To start, you can equip all of the talismans and the Black Knife armor. Equip the Moonveil Katana in the first right-hand armament slot, the Wakazashi with the Bloodhound Step Ash of War in the second slot, and the Misericorde with the White Shadow's Lure Ash of War in the third slot. Equip the Staff of Loss in the first left-hand armament slot, and any dagger or light weapon with the Assassin's Gambit Ash of War in the second slot. Now let's talk about how we can apply our skills to various scenarios. We will start with the various weapons, Ashes of War, and their uses. The Assassin's Gambit is great for PvE scenarios where you would like to slip by enemies and remain unseen. It temporarily lowers the range that enemies will spot you at. I found this to be best demonstrated at the main gate of Stormveil Castle. Normally the ballista sentries will spot and begin firing upon you moments after entering. However, with Assassin's Gambit, you can basically get past the entire targeting area of the ballistas before you are even noticed. Assassin's Gambit is also extremely helpful for completing the Evergaol at Ordina Liturgical Town. Because Assassin's Gambit is always used outside of combat, I put it on a basic dagger in the left hand, switch to it, and hold it with two hands in order to use the skill, then quickly switch back to my combat weapons before proceeding. Assassin's Gambit also works in PvP, but unfortunately, as of patch 1.05, it does not seem to work in PvP if you use it with the Black Knife chest armor equipped, so you'll have to take that off first if you want to use this skill in PvP. Next up is the White Shadow's Lure. This Ash of War is solely for PvE scenarios in which you are dealing with the occasional troublesome humanoid enemy, such as Cleanrot Knights or Spectral Banished Knights. Just use the skill, get behind the distracted opponent, and stab them in the back with the Misericorde, which has the highest crit multiplier of any weapon in Elden Ring. While it is fairly limited in its application, it's still very fun to use when the occasion calls for it. We also have to talk about the Moonveil Katana. This is one of the strongest DEX/intelligence weapons in the game, and it's fairly straightforward. It's a good katana that has a fast and high damage unique skill with some added range to boot. It does reliable and consistent damage whether you are in PvE or PvP scenarios. Finally, there is the Wakazashi with the Bloodhound Step. These two make a pretty fierce combo, allowing you to quickly zip around, avoid attacks, and get in close to quickly slice up opponents. It's great for avoiding many boss attacks that are too far-reaching or prolonged to be consistently avoided with a regular dodge. In PvP, it gets you far enough away from enemies wielding colossal swords to avoid any of their crouch poke attacks after you've been knocked down. It is also probably your best option to use if you are trying to poke at a boss or enemy player with your spells rather than any sort of melee weapon. That brings us to the spells, the last abilities to cover for the Arcane Trickster. The Night Maiden's Mist provides good area denial in PvP, and is great against stationary or slow-moving targets in PvE. Night Shard is alright in PvE, but is far better in PvP where it provides excellent and quick poke damage. You'll more often be using Night Comet for most PvE scenarios, as it can be charged and provides superior damage per FP when compared to the Night Shard. You might also notice that both the Night Shard and Night Comet sorceries will not be dodged by PvE enemies, making them excellent choices for NPC invaders and bosses alike. In PvP, the Night Comet comes in handy when opponents move out of range of the Night Shard to down a healing flask. Finally, we have the Ambush Shard, which can quickly and unexpectedly deal the coup de grace against an opponent at a medium distance that is anticipating a Night Comet and instead gets a surprise from behind. Combined, these weapons, skills, and spells all make for a character that is effective in PvE and tricky to deal with in PvP, always keeping foes on their toes where they are more likely to slip up. If you want to add more variety into your spell list, having an intelligence of 50 allows you to access other great sorceries such as Adula's Moonblade and Stars of Ruin. While this build isn't the most powerful one out there, it has certainly been fun to use and it is viable for both PvE and PvP. Let me know what you think of this build and if there is anything you would change. Also, if you have any questions or need further help with the guide portions of this video, you can reach out in the comment section and I'll do my best to provide a solution. I have tons of other great guide videos you can check out over on my channel, and if you're new, consider subscribing. You're helping me feed my cat, her name's Marshmallow. There are other ways you can support the channel too. The Marshmallow merch store features Elden Ring inspired designs of your favorite fluff ball, and we also have a channel membership. By pledging $3 a month, you'll get a custom badge that upgrades over time to let others know you're an MVP, along with priority responses to your comments and questions from me. That's my spiel. Have a great day. If you're here today, have a great Friday and a great weekend. And as always, thanks for watching.